Okay, this is Business 342, homework page 89, problem number 11. Aaron's Rentals has 58,000 shares of common stock outstanding at a market price of 36 bucks a share. Okay, you remember you need the current price of everything to figure out the market value and then the total value of everything together. The common stock just paid. That's a D0. Remember, if it says it's going to pay, its next dividend was going to be $1.64, this would be D1. But it says it just paid. So that means it's D0, and you got to add the growth rate to it, 1 plus the growth rate multiplied times this to get D1. If they said its next dividend is going to be $1.64, then that tells you that's D1 that already has the growth rate for the first one already built into it. So if it says the next dividend is $1.64, that's D1. If it just paid it, that's D0, and you have to multiply times 1 plus the growth rate to get D1, and you need D1 to figure out the RE. It has a dividend growth rate of 2.8%. There are 12,000 shares of 6% preferred stock outstanding at a market price of $51 a share. The preferred stock has a par value of 100. Remember, that's important because you need to figure out the dividend of the preferred based on 6% times the par value over that so that'd be $6 over the share price. That gives you the return, the RP. Okay, the outstanding bonds mature in 17 years and have a total face value of $750,000. So that tells you that there's 750 bonds out there at $1,000 a piece, with a face value of $1,000 and a market price of $1,011. So you can either take that 750 and multiply it times 1,011, or you can take the $750,000 and multiply it times 1.011. Either way, you're going to get the same total value. The bonds pay 8% interest semi-annually again, so you got to figure out the IY and then multiply times 2. This combines a couple of mistakes that I did before with D1 and the IY, but we've corrected that now. And the tax rate is 34%. Remember, the tax rate only affects the debt. It doesn't affect the preferred or the equity because they're not tax deductible. What is the firm's weighted average cost of capital, the WACC? So you're figuring out everything this time. So you need to figure out the weights, and you need to figure out the returns for the equity, the preferred, and the debt. So let's figure out the weight. 58,000 shares times 38 bucks a share gives you 2,088,000 for the equity. 12,000 shares times $51 per share current market price. Remember, these values are figured out on the current market price all the time, so you have to use that, not the face amount, not what they were originally issued at. Okay, and so that's 612,000 for the preferred. 750 shares times $1,011, which is the market price, or you could have had 750,000 times 1.011. You still come up with 758,250. So that's these three. You add them together, that gives you V. Remember, this is E equity, P preferred, D debt, and V is those combined, the total value. That gives you your weights: D over V, P over V, E over V for the weights for equity, preferred, and debt. Now the return on equity, the cost of equity, or the return, the equity return, rate of return, is D1, which is D0 times 1 plus the growth rate. And we know the D0 was $1.64. We know the growth rate is 2.8%. So $1.64 times 1.028 over 36, which is the current price, plus the growth rate, gets you the RE of 7.48. The RP is simply the dividend, because there is no growth rate on a preferred, it's just a constant dividend, over the existing market price. The dividend is 6% based on a par value of 100, so $6 over 51 equals 11.76%. And then for the bond, we simply go through and do our bond calculations. Remember, it's semi-annual. So when you go through and calculate everything, you take the number of years left. 17 times 2 is 34. Present value is 1,011. Put a negative sign in front of it. The payments on 8% is $80 per year divided by 2, since this is semi-annual. So 40 bucks per payment. Future value is 1,000. Compute the IY, which is also the RD, which is the cost of debt. 3.94, you multiply times 2 because this is the semi-annual IY. You want it annualized. 7.88. After tax cost of debt is what you need. So it's the RD times 1 minus the tax rate. So the RD is 7.88 times 1 minus 0.34. That's a 0.34. So that's really 7.88 times 0.66. And that gives you 5.2% is the cost of capital after tax. Now the weighted average is just basically the weighted average. Remember, the formula is equity over value to give you the weight of equity times the RE plus preferred, the total value of preferred over total value of the company in this case, which is the weight of preferred times the RP plus the same with debt, the value of debt over the total value, give you the weight of debt times R, which is the IY, the cost of debt, times 1 minus the tax rate. But you've already done that up here. Remember, we've already done that calculation up here. So you can just roll that in. Kind of how they do risk premium, and they tell you the risk premium, it's this whole area. Well, we've already done that. If you don't already do it, you can do it this way, where you put the RD. It's the same thing. You're doing this calculation right here. Okay, so that gives you your cost of debt after tax. You just take the weight of everything. This divided by, the equity divided by debt, preferred divided by debt, So the weight times the return for each one of them, and that gets you the weighted average cost of capital of 7.74%. So that's problem number 11, page 89, Business 342 homework.